Hello, everybody. This is Kate Strashny from DATAcated, and welcome to the DATAcated show. I am the founder of DATAcated, and today we actually have a really fun episode for you. We're going to talk about getting AI ready, scaling, and going. And we have a very special guest with us. Before I bring her on stage, I'll just briefly let you know that I met her at AWS reInvent just recently, so it was really great to see people in person again. I thought that was really cool. Her name is Becky Carroll, and she's going to be joining us in just a minute. I'll let you know that she is IBM's Consulting's Global AWS Strategic Partnership Leader for Data and AI. She's a thought leader in AI and data and customer-centric strategies. I can't wait to bring her on. But before I do so, I want to remind you all that this is a live show, right? If you have questions, if you have comments, you can go ahead and put that in the chat, either on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Twitter, wherever you're tuning in. And as you're joining, I actually have a question for you. So I will put that on screen right now. And the question is about your company data. Would you feel that your company data is AI ready? And we'll talk about what it actually means to be AI ready, but use your own understanding of that definition. Being ready to get value from AI, I guess, is a good loosely framed definition. Let us know in the chat, yes or no. I know that's pretty broad, or you can add more comments and say that you're almost AI ready, or if you need clarification, we could do that as well. So I'll leave that question up here for a second more while I bring Becky up on our stage. Becky, thank you so much for joining me here. Welcome to the DATAcated show.
Hi, Kate. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Of course. I think I've just asked the audience to let me know if their company is, if their data is AI ready. And as we wait for those comments to come in, I think a good place for us to start is to talk about your role at IBM.
Sure. Great. Well, I heard your introduction. I thought you said you weren't going to do a bio, but you kind of did a little bit. That's okay. So at IBM, I'm working really closely with AWS. In fact, I'm dedicated to the AWS relationship, and my focus is data and AI. And in particular, over this last year and a half, it's been around GenAI and helping our clients figure out how do they start to, before it was how do they start to experiment with it. This year, I think it's going to be about really, we need business value. Last year, we said we needed business value. This year, we really need business value from GenAI. So that's a big part of the relationship, and making sure that we're working together with AWS to create joint solutions and help our joint clients. So in a nutshell.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that. Reminder for those who are tuning in now, the question that you're answering in the comments is, would you say your company data is AI ready? We've already got some responses coming in, Becky. Interesting. There's one that just says no in all capital letters.
Oh
no. Some say it's department specific, and it's going to vary, I think, across different departments, industries, regions, companies, obviously, right? I think as more comments are coming in, I'd love to hear from you. What do you think it means to actually be, to have AI ready data?
Yeah, that's obviously it's a hot topic. And when we talk with our clients as well, and I was just at AWS reInvent, and I was facilitating a roundtable on data governance and AI readiness, and it was varied across the room, just like you're seeing. Some people said, we think we're ready. Other people said, we ran a bunch of experiments, but we didn't get anything out of them because the data was garbage, right? It's garbage in, garbage out. So if we don't have the right information coming in, our AI is not going to be able to do the right thing. Or if we don't have our data, put together in a way that makes sense. So if we don't have the right classifications, or, if we're let's say we're a medical company and we want the AI to show a nurse how to administer an IV, right? Mm-hmm. And so then it's just an IV for this person, and this person's an adult, but the AI comes back and says, well, use this gauge instead of this gauge, and that was a gauge for an infant, right? We have a data issue there, right? Wow. So it's really, the AI results are going to be as good as the data that we're using with it. So I've seen statistics that say, I think it was a Gartner statistic that said 30% of GenAI projects are going to be abandoned in 2025 due to poor data quality.
Was 30? I thought the number would be much higher.
Yeah. Well, I think it's getting better. So 30%, but we are seeing right now that 1 in 3 companies are pausing what they're doing with GenAI based on pilots. And it's all really because of the quality of the data and the results. So I think, Kate, it's about making sure we have the right data strategy, making sure we have the right, data management, thinking about AI and thinking differently. This is different from how we've used data before. I mean, I don't need to tell you, you're an expert in this area, right? And around making sure we're understanding the risk, and we've evolved our data management practices, and we have an open, trusted data foundation laid out there for AI, because if we don't trust our data, we're not going to trust our results.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not really surprised, because companies got really excited. They heard AI, they tried it, right? You mentioned the experimentation phase. They realized their data is not quite there yet, and they're taking a pause. And that makes sense. Now, I know IBM talks a lot about the responsible AI. So I wanted to sort of get your thoughts on what does that look like in practice, and how does data governance actually play a role in making these projects a success?
Well, I think first, let's just talk about what responsible AI is. Does it mean not killing off large swaths of the rainforest? Does it mean, watching out for bias? Does it mean, making sure that we have the right kind of fairness, robustness, transparency, privacy? It means all those things, right? That's really, it's important to understand what that looks like, so that, again, we can trust what we're doing with GenAI, and we can trust and we know that what we're creating is going to be responsible for us, for our customers, for our company, and we're going to make sure that we have our risk mitigated as well. So it's important for us to lay out those kinds of foundations and make sure we're laying out responsible AI principles. I don't think this is something that just happens, Kate, right? I don't think that responsible AI is just going to take place, or if you put in a couple of bias checks and that's going to cover it off, right? I think we really have to get everybody involved. It's not in practice. This isn't something you have one responsible AI department who's trying to do this and they're trying to push it down on everybody else. I think it's really important that we have cross-functional teams, and we see or enterprises that are doing it well bring together people from your ethics practice, your legal practice, the business units, right? Your data scientists who are working with the data. All of them come together and talk about what should our responsible AI principles be? What should they look like? And then, going out and educating and raising the awareness of everybody who's touching a model, who's putting data into a model. What is this model going to come up with? Is the data biased already? Is there personal information in this data? And how do we make sure that that we have that managed and taken care of it? When we incorporate those bias and ethical considerations even into our business operations. And so I think data governance wraps in with that, right? Everything we were talking about with the data management, the onboarding, the classification, the tagging, and AI can help. I mean, that's kind of the cool thing, is that AI can help us with this. AI can help us create the right data products. It can help us do that classification and tagging, but it's up to the humans to look and make sure that we're integrating these ethics all the way across the development lifecycle.
Yeah, I think sometimes when we talk about responsible AI, data governance, people think we need a policy, right? We just put a policy somewhere and people are just going to be following that policy. That doesn't really happen. And you're right, it takes a team effort. Everyone has to be involved. Everyone has to be hands-on. So I wanted to, a follow-up question there is, how can IBM Consulting actually help clients accomplish this?
So the 2-second plug, right? But I mean, we work with our clients. I mean, so talking about this roundtable that I was doing at the AWS reInvent conference, and I ran similar roundtables at IBM conferences, and having customers tell us, we have banned all GenAI, and I'm going to get to your answer, right? But we banned all GenAI because we're too nervous about the risks. So our management has just banned it, which of course we know that didn't work when we banned social media in companies. People still did it on their phones. They did it anyway. So banning it isn't the answer. Companies said that they let everybody do anything they want. I've had companies say that as well. It's like, well, that's probably not the answer, right? So it's looking at putting together the right kind of framework. And so IBM we've worked with a lot of clients. We use it ourselves, right? So we're client zero for all of this. What is the right framework for responsible AI? How do we lay all these things into place around the explainability, the fairness, the robustness, the transparency, and the privacy pieces? But then how do we make sure we've got the human oversight in the right places? So we work with our clients, help them pull those things together. We actually have some assessments that we can run with clients to help them understand, is their data AI ready? Is their organization AI ready? And what do we need to do to help them build in the responsible AI checkpoints and the guardrails around AI models, so that they are confident and they can feel like they can make some business decisions and bring value.
Absolutely. And, we have a comment here from Scott, it's fairly long, so I just read a bit of it, but he mentions
Mm.
that both human and business relationship trust is key, and how it applies with our relationship with AI, and how trust is the foundation that can ensure AI can truly work for us. So I wanted to ask, do these assessments that you run with clients where you try to show them if they are AI ready or not, does that help them build trust in the AI systems that they're implementing?
Well, so the assessments are just to show them where the gaps might be and where
Mhm.
they can improve. But I think that the trust comes in when we have this cross team collaboration, right? And we have everybody up to speed on what AI is, what it means, and what they can do. Really understanding responsible AI practices, understanding what it means to have the right data. And one of the things we've been doing at IBM to help build the trust is we've been having hackathons internally where we all get out there and we try it and we see what happens. And we see what happens when our data is not quite right. We see what happens when the data is amazing. And that helps us understand the limitations of AI and
Mhm.
generative AI in particular. And so I think those things help walk us towards building that trust when we get everybody on board from the CEO, all the way across. And that makes a huge difference. So the assessment doesn't build the trust. It's what you do with the gaps that you find in the assessments that build the trust. And then making sure that you've got the right, governance around security and risk. I mean, I don't need to talk to you about risk management, right? That's one of your big topics. But it's so important to make sure that we have security of our data.
Mhm.
We also have security of our models, right? And so those two things together, once we have that kind of security wrapped into it, and then the quality and the proper governance around the data governance, AI governance, I think we start moving towards the trust pieces.
It's interesting. This reminds me of similar conversations we had 10, 15 years ago about data analytics and business intelligence software and all those
I know.
automated reports. And
Mhm.
the executives are like, oh, I don't know if I could trust that. Give me my spreadsheet or give me my usual report. And it took some time, right, for people to build that trust and see the results. And I think just getting everyone involved as early as possible and as much as possible is just the key here to build that trust.
Well, that the frameworks, getting everybody involved, and the change management. This is a
Mhm.
change management discussion that we're talking about, and it's just as important in this new technology as it has been in the past with traditional AI and, like you said, data and analytics back in the day. So
And it's going to take time, right? It's not going to
it's
happen
going to take
overnight.
time, and people are people. And I think it's also important just to highlight that the human in the loop is also part of the trust, right? Making sure there's the checks and the balances, and we have AI automating where it makes sense, but we have people still part of the process, and especially where it's critical, right? Critical
Mhm.
processes, critical data and information, that we've got human in the loop there to ensure we've got the right regulations, the right compliance of our models.
It's funny. I do these conversations quite often, and the people are people conversation always comes up. It's like people are going to do what people are going to do.
That's the thing. That's the thing, and even when we look at some of our assessments and how we help lay out frameworks, it's still people, process, technology, right? Those are still the three areas that we need to address. And if we only focus on the technology, it's really cool and it's fun, and we love seeing what the new models can do. We miss out the people. And when we don't focus on the process and we just focus on, oh, well, let's create AI to do these cool new things, but we don't think about how we're going to reinvent our processes. Now we're doing something like one of my mentors back in the day told me, you don't want to repave the cow path, Becky, right? Cows, when they go home to eat at night, my understanding is they walk on the same path every single day. And if you just pave that cow path, well, you still have that path, but nothing's changed except there's pavement on it, right? So we don't want to just pave over our existing processes. We want to really think we've
Yeah.
got the opportunity now to do things differently. We've got the opportunity to use agents,
Mhm.
right, to help us move forward in a different way and rethink our business processes and workflows. And we've talked about the reinvention of work for a long time, but I think we're actually there now, where we
Mhm.
can invent work with agents, with digital assistants, and reinventing workflows and end-to-end processes using this stuff. So it's kind of
Yeah,
a cool time.
it is. It is. And I didn't know this about cows, by the way. I know rodents are habitual creatures, but hey, I'm learning learning something new about farm animals here as well. Why not?
Well, I grew up in Northern California, and you could see the cows, on the hills walking back and forth every day on the same path. So apparently
Yeah,
that's
I mean, I
what they
had
do.
sheep in Tajikistan. I don't know if that counts, but I don't really
Sure.
remember their path.
But
Okay,
we
so
digress, right? So
yes, I know, right? Now, I know IBM believes in this open ecosystem approach, and I know in your role, you work very closely with AWS. So wanted to get your thoughts on, why do you think this relationship, this partnership with AWS is so important? And talk more about this open ecosystem and how does that drive success in AI?
Yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, the partnership with AWS has been incredible. And if anyone who came to the reInvent conference like you did, Kate, saw the breadth of information that they are offering with respect to AI and the securities they're putting around it and the new capabilities. In fact, I was on a reInvent call yesterday, which is a recap, and it was 2 hours and just all of the high points of things that are coming out in Amazon Q Business and Q Developer and Bedrock and the autonomous agents and multimodal capabilities and some of the new graph things and the new AWS models. We want to take advantage of all of that. And our clients who are using AWS as one of their clouds or their primary cloud, we want them to make the most of it. So that's why this partnership is so important for us, is to be able to partner together and help our clients achieve value faster and better by us working together, as opposed to them trying to do it maybe on their own. So this relationship has been important, and we've had this partnership now for over 7 years. And as it's moved into GenAI, I think it's become really exciting to see what we can do together and what our clients are wanting to accomplish. And I could share some use cases with you in a few minutes about some of the industries and things that we've seen in GenAI. The openness is important too, because it's, again, in the past, we've always had best of breed. And this is another case where we've got best of breed. How do we make sure we have the right models? Some models are great for video. Some models are great for language. Everyone knows that different models are good for different purposes. So being open and being able to use an open ecosystem with our partners allows us to use things like IBM's Watson X technology on top of AWS. And so the two together, where we integrate, like this past year, we integrated Watson X .governance and Amazon SageMaker. And so with those two things together, it allows our clients to govern everything across one pane of glass with what they're already doing on AWS. So that openness allows us to have kind of a flexibility, which I think is important. And plus, we have to realize that enterprises are not just going to use one model or one cloud, right? It's multi-cloud, it's multi-model and multimodal. So how do we make sure that we are open enough to be able to use the right thing in the right place? So.
Yeah, I agree. I think clients are always going to be using multiple tools. So coming together and partnering to serve your client and bring them more value in the end is definitely the right way forward. I think going at it alone, you're only going to get so far.
Exactly. And AWS wants to work with their partners. And we've won a lot of partnership awards with them. So I think it helps our clients. And that's the main thing. It's how do we help our clients get through their pain points? And we use AWS's working backwards technique to do that, working backwards from the client and where are their pain points and how can we help them get where they need to go by looking at some of their issues first, as opposed to saying, here's a really cool piece of technology, let's go use it.
Yes, exactly. So I know when companies want to use AI, generative AI, they want to launch a project, they go through several phases, right? They have ideation, they're looking at use cases, where can we apply this? And they probably pick a use case that is going to have high impact, low risk, show some great value. And then they get into experimentation phase, right? And this is what you mentioned early on, that some companies drop out at experimentation phase, maybe due to their data not being AI ready. So I wanted to ask, how can they actually, for those who are still in the experimentation phase and want to move forward, how do they move out of that phase into production?
That's a great question. And it's a question that enterprises have been asking themselves a lot this last year. And I think, so let me take a step back from that. So maybe the pilots or the phases that you're in right now with experimentation have been working, maybe they haven't been working, maybe it's been hit or miss. But I think if you think about choosing the right use cases, I think that's where it's important, because what we're seeing is clients who have chosen use cases that are kind of big, huge pie in the sky. Oh, if only we could do this, I think GenAI could be the answer. That's not moving forward. The use cases that are moving forward are those that are prioritized. I'm going to call them kind of a crawl, walk, run type of approach. And I talk a lot with AWS about this and with some of their leadership. And we wrote an agreement that kind of a crawl approach is choosing use cases that you already know there's inherent business value in those, right? Let's not choose something and see if we can find the business value. Here's something we know there's a great business value in it. Let's use GenAI to make that better, to make us more productive, to optimize that business process, right? Those typically are the ones that get through the experimentation phase and move into production because there's already value in them. That's just kind of a crawl phase, right? A walk phase might be, this is something that we've always wanted to do, but humans alone couldn't do it. We need AI because of the vastness or whatever the reason is. Kind of a walk phase. Those would be the next phase of pilots or use cases to look at, because again, there's a business value here. We know this can be done. We just haven't been able to do it because we haven't had the compute power. We haven't had the AI to help us make it more effective. So that's kind of the second piece. So I think if enterprises can focus on those two pieces as they think about how they want to move to production, choosing the right use case, that's going to be really important. And the third phase, the run phase, and this isn't something we're going to talk about today. I don't think, Kate, maybe we can talk about this another time, is kind of the agentic phase, right? That we're starting to move into, and people are talking a lot about agentic AI. But if we think about how agents then can be used together, multi-agents to automate tasks, and really change a business process completely from end to end, I think that's something that's, a year, 2 years out. So I wouldn't do a lot of experimenting with that yet. You can a little bit, but I think getting the muscle memory ready, right, is a good thing there. So choosing the right use case to me is one of the most important things that can be done. Clear business value. We know it's something that the organization needs, and that's going to help people get out of the experimentation phase. And then, of course, everything we've already talked about, right? The trust. Having the guardrails in place and making sure the governance is in place, making sure the data is ready. We can't get out of experimentation phase if our data just continues to be, a little bit of a mess.
Yeah, so we've got the crawl phase, we're finding the right use case, has business value. We've got the walk phase where humans couldn't do it. We need more compute power. I think I'm mostly excited about that walk phase because I want to see what companies are going to accomplish with AI. The run is, yes, the agents. I think everyone is excited about them. They're talking about them. We've got several questions in the comments about that. But like you said, maybe those would be saved for another conversation. I'm just wondering, is there going to be like a fly phase coming up where we just sit on the beach and do nothing?
That would be amazing, I think. But I might be bored, so I don't know.
Yes, that'll be a conversation, 30 years from now. We'll get on another live show at that point.
I don't know, with the exponential rate, it could happen a lot sooner. So
I know it's exciting, it's scary, but it is exciting. Like I said, that walk phase excites me the most because I just want to see what can companies now accomplish with the help of AI that they always had an urge to, but just did not have the capacity to compute, the humans on hand to actually accomplish that. And we've got George in the audience saying yes to data governance. You can't do this stuff without AI ready data, and you need data governance and the guardrails in place to actually accomplish this.
Absolutely.
Quick reminder for the audience, if you do have questions on what we're talking about or anything else that you want Becky to discuss on, relating to IBM, their partnership with AWS, or anything else on the topic, put that in the comments. I want to move on to some real world examples and just talk through some use cases that you're seeing across industries and how IBM Consulting is actually helping businesses implement generative AI solutions.
Sure. What's been really interesting this last year is people have brought through their experiments and their production use cases to see where they've taken it. And it's pretty much fallen out into three main areas, which I think we've talked about a little bit, right? Optimizing business processes, what they're doing around that, how they're enhancing the customer experience, and how they're boosting employee productivity. And we hear a lot about those last two, the customer service pieces, right? Interactive chat assistants, simulated customer conversations to train agents, contact center improvements, those types of things. We've heard a lot about those. And I think those are pretty bread and butter at this point. We've heard a lot about boosting employee productivity, and it's important, right? Being able to improve the software development lifecycle using GenAI, using things that help you develop more quickly, using code generation, document processing, test cases, user generation, user story generation scripts, optimizations. Those are all really important, and I think they're really exciting too. I think where we get excited is around the use cases we're seeing around the optimizing business processes. And I've got a couple here. I'm just going to kind of list off a few things that we've seen this last year. Things like in healthcare and life sciences, being able to do APS record summarization. We see a lot of summarization opportunities. Financial services, anti-money laundering investigations, digital KYC, and making that a more automated process. It's an incredibly manual process, digital KYC, to onboard new clients, and then do a continuous KYC. But those use cases are becoming real with GenAI. In telecom, looking at things like creating new products for telecom and understanding from customer pain points what kind of new products could be created. In CPG, we saw a really large CPG company who started experimenting with and rolling out branding and marketing understanding, and where is the brand being misused, where is it being misused in visuals, where are fake products being sold, and how can they manage some of that. So that's a really great use case there. Automotive and manufacturing around, the tests, looking at welding capabilities in GenAI, looking at digital twins, right? So I think there's a lot of really cool things that are going on. We also see a lot, probably all of us, with travel and hospitality as we're out there and we're interacting with hotels, and GenAI is making recommendations for us. So we see a lot of really unique use cases. I think one of the things that was most interesting is IBM, because we're client zero. And I mentioned earlier, we've been doing hackathons and things like that, but we have something called IBM Consulting Advantage.
Okay. And
it's a platform that we've set up that has a wide variety of GenAI assistance, for productivity and assets that really help us across our processes and what we want to do. And we've created kind of like everyday assistance and assistance for creating proposals, assistance for creating data products, right? Being able to take a data product that normally would have taken a couple of consultants, maybe 3 or 4 weeks to create. GenAI is helping us create it in 3 or 4 minutes. And it's really pretty amazing, and just really quick information that comes back and that we can then cross-check. So for us to being able to use those types of productivity tools ourselves every single day, not just for process improvement, but for making us better at what we do as consultants, so we can offer something better to our clients, that's huge. And our teams are seeing 30-50% increases in what they're doing in their daily work, improvements, faster, better information, and really cutting down the amount of time that we're spending on some certain consulting areas, so we can dig in more with our clients in other areas. So I like to use us as our own client zero example of use cases of where GenAI is working really well. And then we had that hackathon that we had was for the company. Everyone was encouraged to participate, and we had a really high participation rate. To come up with what kind of assistance do you need? Is it something to do better pricing, better proposals, better research? And we came up with a lot of really cool tools, being able to use some of our enterprise data and bring it in and feed it back to people with insights that took many spreadsheets in the past to accomplish.
I love the story, especially about Advantage. I know people call it eating your own dog food. I'm not a fan of the term, because
I know I thought about saying that. I don't really like that term either.
But
Drinking your own champagne? I don't know.
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
More appealing to me than eating dog food.
Yeah, same here. But being your own customer, using your own product, I think is always a strong testament to the fact that it works. And my background was in consulting and advisory, so having a tool that you just described, where I can actually go and have an assistant and help me with some of those processes, would have been phenomenal and time saving. And sometimes looking for the right documents and the right processes can be time consuming, I'll say.
Well, it's a game changer. And so for us, we created IBM Consulting Advantage for ourselves, right? Kind of like Amazon does, right? So they create a lot of the services that AWS has, as you probably know, they created for themselves, like SageMaker, Amazon SageMaker, Amazon Connect. These are all services they created for themselves, and then they started to market. So IBM Consulting Advantage, we created for ourselves, but now we have our clients saying, well, we'd like to do that too. And can you help us build our own library assistants and apps that'll help us be more productive and effective in our organizations? So we're actually starting to talk with our clients about how they can do something similar.
Right. And that's so important. Becky, you shared so many great use cases and examples across all these different industries. And I wanted to ask, I know you won't have an exact number to share, but maybe a loose range of how long does it typically take from ideation, experimentation phase to actually launch a product? Maybe you could share about Advantage, like how long did that actually take? A range is enough, because I know It depends on.
It really
The answer
depends.
probably depends, right?
It depends. It is. That is the answer. That's a good consulting answer. Right? It depends. But no, I mean, it just ranges. If it's something, go back to that crawl, walk, run. Right? If it's something that's a crawl, where it's something you already know has a business value, I think we've seen our clients, get something on board, do a proof of concept in 6 to 8 weeks. Everybody's excited. Yep, it does what we thought it could do. Let's take it to production. Right? As long as the data is ready. Those things can move that fast. But there's others that have taken a lot longer because the data wasn't ready, or because they uncovered something that they didn't expect. And so maybe they have to go back to the drawing board or do it all over again. So it does vary. We can stand these things up pretty quickly within a month, 2 months. And with our clients and even for ourselves, we're standing up things really fast. Even the new AI assistants that come on board, as quickly as you can think it, we can bring it, test it out, and bring it into production. So it doesn't have to take a long time anymore to do these types of things because AI helps us.
Yes.
It helps us make it faster too.
AI helps create more AI. So Becky, for those in the audience who are listening and are interested, what advice would you have for them if they have some ideas in their mind? What can they do today to sort of help move them forward into bringing them to life?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that's a great way to think about it. So, if you have things today, obviously, I'm going to keep going back to make sure it's something that has business value that your organization is going to see really clearly. This makes sense to do, and let's go do it. That's going to help you get there quickest. If you think about your organization, right? How do you have a cross-functional team I talked about for AI that has everybody being brought on board? I think that's really important. If you don't have that today, and people who said, no, our data's not ready, like go out there and start getting that data ready and get that cross-functional team together to help you define what that new data strategy needs to look like for AI, because it's probably going to be different than it was before, right? Yeah. Making sure you have the right governance, data governance, AI governance, security around AI, so that everybody can have that trust, because the trust is so important. The AI literacy everywhere. Go run a hackathon. Go out there and let people experiment. Don't be afraid. They're going to do it anyway. Do it in a way that they learn, you learn, and we can learn from each other. Because honestly, I think, Kate, some of the best ways to get people to trust is when their colleague is doing it.
Yeah.
Oh, I heard so-and-so did this and they had a really cool use case and they increased their productivity by such and such. I want that.
Yeah.
Help me get that. That's when you light lots of little excitement, areas in the company, and they start to light up, and then everybody wants to be part of that bigger glow. So we do that. And I think that those are really the main pieces that if you're stuck, if you're not sure where to go, those would be the approaches that I would recommend taking today, right now. Don't be afraid to go out there and get everybody involved. It's not something that needs to be held in one department. It's going to work best if it's AI everywhere.
Yes, you're so right. And it again brings me back to when we were implementing data analytics solutions. If one department had it, a pretty dashboard, the other one would see it. Oh, now we want it. But even then, they did hesitate a bit until we let them get hands-on. And then once we started playing with it, they're like, okay, I'm not going to break the system. I can work with this. Because that is a fear some of them had. And it is much easier to use than people would think. And now, especially with GenAI, it is even easier. You can literally talk to it or type to it, however you can communicate with your assistants and agents.
Exactly. So, and helping people understand how they can use it in the enterprise, right? I can use this at work in a way that makes sense. But the governance and security around it is important. So your legal teams are also comfortable that you can use it in the enterprise, right? Yes. And making sure that you've got all your I's dotted, your T's crossed, you understand all the implications, and you're comfortable, and you have the right structure around it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Becky, as we come to close, I just want to ask you one final question, and that's where can my audience go to learn more about the work that IBM is doing with AWS or IBM in general? Where can they go to learn more?
Well, I just think it's really simple, ibm.com/AWS. And that's our partnership page. We've got examples out there. We've got use cases. We've got information on how you can get going, information on data governance and GenAI. So there's a lot of information out there. We also have a Institute for Business Value, which is a thought leadership thought think tank at IBM. And you can go out and you can get to IBV from IBM.com as well. And there's a lot of great reports out there, CEO reports on GenAI, compute reports about GenAI, trust reports about GenAI. So go out there and do some education for yourself and expand your thinking.
Perfect. And for anyone who wants to reach out with you directly, what's the best place? Is it LinkedIn? Is it Twitter?
I think LinkedIn is probably the best place. I'm just Becky Carroll on LinkedIn.
It was easy to find you earlier, so
Yeah.
you won't have any trouble, especially if you add the word IBM after. It's a
Exactly.
no-brainer. There's only one of you, I think. So. Awesome. Well, Becky, thank you so much for your time here today. I always learn a lot from these shows, and I really learned a lot from you today. Thank you for the audience for all your great comments and questions. We'll try to get in there shortly after the session is over and address some of those comments because we did not have time for all of them, but I really appreciate the engagement. And yes, we'll see everybody online. Thank you again for joining. Bye.
Thanks, Kate.